Gordon Brown and Donald Trump are unlikely bedfellows there in the sense that they apologised for like a hot mic incident, right? They said something they thought they were speaking in private. It became public. They were incredibly embarrassed by it. They said sorry. I mean, in Gordon Brown's case, he certainly meant it. But with Jim Radcliffe, these were comments that were given in an interview. He doesn't give that many interviews. They weren't unguarded comments or a throwaway remark.
Manchester United owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe apologised yesterday after claiming the UK had been colonised by immigrants. His apology read, "I'm sorry that my choice of language has offended some people. But it is important to raise the issue of controlled and well-managed immigration that supports economic growth." So a sort of apology, non-apology. How does that compare to many great political apologies?
I've just been talking to Gillian. I'm mortified by what's happened. I've given her my sincere apologies. I misunderstood what she said, and she has accepted that there was a misunderstanding.
We made a pledge. We didn't stick to it. And for that, I'm sorry.
Anyone who knows me knows these words don't reflect who I am. I said it, I was wrong, and I apologize.
Let me say immediately that I've paid the fine, and I once again offer a full apology.
Now, I recognise we have made mistakes. I'm sorry for those mistakes, but I've fixed the mistakes.
Sorry for having believed Mandelson's lies.
Sorry, Miss Jackson.
Well, let's talk to the sketch writer Tom Peck about those apologies that you heard. Gordon Brown, Nick Clegg, Donald Trump, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss and Keir Starmer, all apologising and grovelling for us. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Hiya, what a tune. Bit of Sorry, Miss Jackson.
Yeah, that's true, but let's not get distracted. Ratcliffe's apology. It's a sort of Liz Truss non-apology, isn't it? It's saying, I used the wrong word, but I was right.
Yeah, I'd say of the clips that you've played, right, that you've got two types of apology, really. And Jim Ratcliffe Gordon Brown and Donald Trump are unlikely bedfellows there in the sense that they apologised for like a hot mic incident, right? They said something they thought they were speaking in private. It became public. They were incredibly embarrassed by it. They said sorry. I mean, in Gordon Brown's case, he certainly meant it. But with Jim Radcliffe, these were comments that were given in an interview. He doesn't give that many interviews. They weren't unguarded comments or a throwaway remark. You know, what they remind me of is one that I should have mentioned earlier, which is that, do you remember Rupa Huck had to apologise for calling Kwasi Kwarteng superficially black?
I do. We just had Rupa on. If only we had Rupa on just now. We should have had her on after you, but carry on.
Well, she offered him her sincere apologies, but they were comments. She is a sociology lecturer, and they were comments that were made effectively in a sociology lecture. They were thought through, entirely sincere, keenly felt opinions. It wasn't said by accident. She just regretted the furor that they caused. And with Jim Ratcliffe, it's exactly the same. So it's very much a non-apology apology. Yeah, and there are many of the kind.
Yeah, the non-apology apology is basically saying, look, what I said was right, and I meant what I said, but there's been such a huge row about it, I can't really bear it, so I'm going to try and shut it down. But there are other apologies that sort of sound sincere but cut no ice with the public. I'm thinking about Nick Clegg. His face to camera, he's on the verge of tears, he's as sincere as he can be, and then he loses all his MPs at the next election. I mean, the apology the politician thinks is going to allow him to close it down and move on, but the public says, no way, Jose.
Well, the Nick Clegg one is incredible. I mean, there's a row about that happening right now. It's everywhere, isn't it? The row about mushrooming student debt, and then the people who are students who are in their 30s now are really angry about it. You know, Nick Clegg's constituency, a student town, Sheffield Hallam, and he went there on purpose and publicly signed this thing to give it all the outward purpose of being something that was legally binding, and then he didn't do it, and then yeah, I'm sure he was very, very, very sorry because it took his party 15 years to recover. His reputation, frankly, has never recovered. But I don't quite know how. I mean, get some of the students that are always on Question Time and so on now to come on the radio and see how they feel about Nick Clegg's apology, because it's not that apology. It's not sort of doing anything about the 250 quid that comes out of their paycheck each month before tax, is it?
Absolutely. The apologizer I like the most is Boris Johnson, because Boris Johnson lives by his own rules. And you got the feeling with his apologies over Partygate, he really didn't try and kind of bamboozle us. He basically said, I know you want me to apologise. I don't think I've got anything to apologise for, but the apologetic words will come out of my mouth.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously Donald Trump has this like almost life policy, if you like, of never apologising for anything. He was taught to him by Roy Cohn, his there's the movie The Apprentice, who was his mentor, and I think Johnson has a similar view to that. I mean, Boris Johnson's general worldview is like there are no rules, there's only people, and you can get around any rule by being stronger than the person seeking to impose it upon you. And if you apologise for something, you've sort of lost that head-to-head contest. But I guess in that sense, at that particular moment, he felt it strategically necessary to say sorry because Partygate was bringing him down, and I suppose it did bring him down. But no, I don't suppose he ever quite meant it. I'm sure when he's having his quiet moments, I'm sure he's furious about all of it, as opposed to sort of
he probably isn't. There is
apologetic about it.
There's an element of truth in what you say there, Tom, because there are people who do apologise in the heat of the moment, as it were. It's a media storm. And then on calm reflection, they think, well, actually, I'd rather stuck to my guns. I wonder why Donald Trump decided to apologise for his Access Hollywood tape. It was pretty appalling, his comments, and everyone would expect a normal person not only to apologise, but probably be drummed out of office. But he's done a lot worse since then, and he's never apologised since then. Do you think he's one of those people who just thought, actually, that apology was completely pointless?
Well, I remember it extremely well, and there was a general view around, of which I shared, that was the thing that was going to cost him the election. He was having this sort of comeback, if you like, but that moment was so seismic that I think he probably agreed, actually, that's too far. That's done me in. So on that one occasion, he chose to seek to try and turn things around by actually apologising, and it's not something that he's ever done since. Quite literally, apparently, by the way, until yesterday, when he issued an entirely sarcastic apology for having endorsed some senator from Oklahoma who has now sort of done him a grave injustice. So he apologised for having endorsed him in 2018.
That's true.
There's the more classic non-apology apology.
There's the sarcastic apology.
Yeah.
We people going around apologising for Keir Starmer, perhaps, or back in the day apologising for having voted Tory. Although it's interesting, the closest he's come to an apology since then was his appalling remarks about the sacrifices made by British soldiers in Afghanistan, where he did actually he didn't use the word apologise, but he corrected himself fulsomely in a tweet.
Well, you played that the Liz Truss apology, which I confess I'd forgotten, but look at Liz Truss's current body of work. Look at the Liz Truss show. Liz Truss spends all her time aggressively stating that she did nothing wrong and she was brought down by the Bank of England, etc., and the deep state and the blah 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 blah. So I couldn't actually tell you which she probably, when she issued those apologies at the time, desperately not trying to be kicked out of office after 6 weeks and be utterly humiliated, she probably did mean it. I mean, maybe she does feel some regret about her actions that hammered people's mortgages and caused her to be a sort of a permanent figure of ridicule. But I don't think she's sorry anymore.
She's certainly
she blames other people. So I don't. So
there's apologising.
Whether she was legitimately sorry then is an interesting question.
There's apologising for your actions. There's apologising for your political decisions, and then there's kind of making a personal apology, as Gordon Brown did to Gillian Duffy, and she agreed it was just a misunderstanding, as it were. I mean, that's a different kind of apology, isn't it?
Well, that was a really sort of seismic moment, wasn't it? I mean, that looking back feels like a moment where kind of politics really changed to a certain extent. It completely dominated a general election campaign. He said something rude about someone when he thought he was back in his car, but then he ended up in a real sort of crazy thing, which you think is a sort of modern invention and didn't really happen as far back as 2010. But then all the TV news cameras and all the reporters were camped outside that Gillian Duffy's house all afternoon, weren't they, when he went in, a prime minister in an election campaign, and had like a 45-minute conversation with her in her sitting room to say sorry. And I think he was, I mean, the thing is, a lot of what people don't necessarily understand is that a hell of a lot of Labour voters are incredibly socially right-wing, and they don't like open borders, etc. And I think Gordon Brown A, was embarrassed, but B, was aware in a way that perhaps not is commonly understood, that he had has picked a fight with an absolutely core Labour constituency, and it would be incredibly damaging for him.
Absolutely right. And finally, Keir Starmer apologising over Mandelson has got him nowhere, because basically people unpack that apology and say, you're really apologising for your terrible error of judgment. Apology's not enough.
Totally, yeah. I mean, 100%. And just before I came on to do this, thinking that we would end up be talking about the Trump clip from 2016. It does make you think, well, what do these apologies mean? I mean, this stuff about Mandelson that Starmer is so shocked by, it all pertains to emails from 2010, 2011. They make Mandelson apparently unfit for office, quite right too. But then since that he spent most of the last year, him and David Lammy, bragging about how they're great mates with Donald Trump. Well, the stuff on that tape from the Access Hollywood tape is horrendous. So you're in this crazy position whereby you've got to disown with your left hand and then make friends with somebody with your right. So none of it really adds up to anything that means anything.
I think that's an extremely
people can't really handle politics that much anymore.
It's an extremely good note to end on, Tom Peck, which is that basically political apologies are completely meaningless. I think we've concluded from that discussion. That was the Times sketch writer Tom Peck talking about political apologies.